93 Boxing, back with another video. Now, Anthony Joshua made it clear that he doesn't want his career to be rushed by anyone. He says he'll fight Deontay Wilder when he feels ready to fight Deontay Wilder. Now, personally, I can't blame either fighter, to be honest. And let me explain why. There's certain fans that are saying Deontay Wilder is the truth, and Anthony Joshua's clearly ducking him, scared, and he should be fighting Wilder. And then you got people that are saying, "Hey, yo, Joshua is young. What was Wilder doing when he had 19 fights?" Now, I want to give opinion of Deontay Wilder, the fans, and actually no, I'm not going to give the opinion of the fans. I might touch on it a little bit. I'm going to give the opinion on Joshua, from Anthony Joshua's perspective and from Deontay Wilder's perspective. Deontay Wilder's perspective, think about this, okay? This guy's unlucky. He can't get a good fighter to be in the ring with him. He got Bermane in a rematch, and I think that's a bad fight for him, considering that he's coming off he's frustrated, and Bermane is a guy that he already beat. He might do better. That's bad for his career. I don't know why. Actually, he's a mandatory. That's why I picked him. But Bermane a decent fighter. Now, that's Deontay Wilder. He just has to be busy. He has to fight fighters and whatnot. But Anthony Joshua's perspective, right? This is Anthony Joshua's point, okay? Anthony Joshua has been boxing as a pro and amateur together a lot less in terms of time than Deontay Wilder's been boxing for pro alone. So when Deontay Wilder turned pro at about 2008, I believe, Anthony Joshua he just kind of started his amateur career, from what I know. And so what does that tell you? It tells you he definitely has less pro experience and less amateur experience. Now, I personally don't blame Joshua for doing what he's doing. I actually think he's being honest. He's honestly admitting that he is not ready for Deontay Wilder. Cool. Nothing wrong with that. Look, I think the Deontay Wilder fans are mad because they realize, a lot of people have been saying Deontay Wilder's been ducking people, he's a bum fighter and whatnot. But it's not Deontay Wilder's fault. Okay? He really is a guy that people fear. So, it's like, wait a minute, if you're saying that Deontay Wilder fears this and that, then of course they're going to rip Anthony Joshua now, knowing that Anthony Joshua fans have been ripping Deontay Wilder for a long time for his bad resume. And keep in mind, I've criticized Joshua. So when I'm praising him, don't think that I'm a fanboy. I've criticized Joshua many times. Check my videos throughout the last week, throughout the last 7 days, maybe last 14 days. I actually felt like Team Joshua is the one that's ducking Deontay Wilder as opposed to the other way around. And Eddie Hearn is using Tony Bellew as a middleman to avoid Wilder for Anthony Joshua. Now, from Joshua's perspective, right, he doesn't have that much experience. 19 fights. Look, people are saying that Joshua didn't have a problem with being rushed to a world title within 18 fights or 17 fights. Okay? People didn't have Anthony Joshua, I guess, didn't have a problem when he was going to fight Charles Martin, Dillian White, so early. But yet he has a problem with Wilder. And Deontay Wilder, no matter what the Deontay Wilder haters say, he's a really good fighter. He's the most dangerous fighter. I do think he's the hardest puncher in boxing. He's harder puncher than Anthony Joshua. I'm very sure of that. He looks like it. He looks like he hits harder than Anthony Joshua. Wilder's a very dangerous puncher. And Anthony Joshua's admitting that. He's admitting that he's physically not ready for that type of competition. Looking from Anthony Joshua's point of view, I do feel like deep down he feels he's been rushed. Right? And what Eddie Hearn has been trying to do is trying to rush him to a title fight, but slow him down and keep him there as the world champion for as long as possible, because that way you can make as much money as possible real quick when he becomes a world champion. And then the longer he's a world champion, undefeated and whatnot, the more money you can make out of him for longer. It's a great money-making strategy. But Joshua himself, look, I feel bad for Wilder and Joshua as well. A lot of people are feeling bad for Wilder only, and I feel bad for Wilder too. But think about it. Joshua, yes, He has all this opportunity, he has all this money, this attention, but that's not necessarily a good thing in every single way. This guy's got responsibilities now. Most guys we know of, like Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, right? Kell Brook. These guys were not fighting top Amir Khan, even Danny Garcia, I think, were not fighting top fighters at 19 fights. Amir Khan, I believe, got knocked out in his 19th fight. I mean, let me check. So, I just checked it. Amir Khan was 18-0 when it was going into the Bredis Prescott fight. So you think to yourself, like, these guys, even though I feel like Amir Khan was rushed a little bit, these guys have not fought top fighters at that, amateur experience, so at that pro experience. And Amir Khan had way more amateur experience than Anthony Joshua, from what I know. None of these guys are being rushed, and I feel like people are okay with, because he has 2 titles, right? So he's been rushed to having a 2 world title. When people are rushed to doing things that they are able to do, they feel they will do it. But when it's like a big task, of course they're going to think to themselves like, wait a minute, I'm not at my best. I'm still improving. Why should I be rushed to that stage? Where most people are not rushed to, at least at this stage of the career. So what Anthony Joshua would do is, of course, avoid the Deontay Wilder challenge, and he would try and make sure that he's ready. Then he faced Deontay Wilder because he was the best version of himself against Deontay Wilder. It's understandable. I mean, when you're like, imagine you're a fighter, right? And you're told, okay, you're gonna have a world title fight. You only have 17 fights, and they say you're gonna get a world title fight. How about it? If you feel like you can beat the guy, you're gonna take the fight, right? And he took the fight, but he never felt like he was gonna be able to fight Deontay Wilder that soon, right? Or he would fight Deontay Wilder that soon, because Deontay Wilder seems like a dangerous fighter, and he wouldn't feel ready for him yet. But he felt ready for Charles Martin, because they're different fighters. Deontay Wilder and Charles Martin are 2 different fighters. If Wilder fought Martin, Charles Martin would get knocked out very quick. So I can't really blame Anthony Joshua for it. And the notion that Deontay Wilder is going to get old when Joshua faces him, like, look, I've criticized Joshua, and you've heard me criticize Joshua, Team Joshua and Eddie Hearn for trying to make Joshua avoid Wilder. But if you think about it, okay, Joshua's like only 3 years younger than Wilder. It's not like Joshua's not like no 22 years old, 25 years old guy. He's a 27-year-old, and Wilder's not no 35-year-old man either. And part of being old is fighting tough competitions. When you're in your 33, 35s, if you're taking loads of punishment, it shows up. That's part of being old. It's not just your age, it's also your accumulation of punishment. Deontay Wilder, most of his he hasn't taken, most of his career, he hasn't been taking too many punishments. His fights, a lot of his fights ended early because he knocked them out. And also, he started boxing pretty late, at the age of 20, I believe. Right? 2021, when he started boxing. Now, again, he started late as well. Part of, fighters like Floyd Mayweather, fighters like, any fighter, when they get older, their body shows, because they went through the wear and tear as well. Age is not the only thing. It's also how long you've been doing it for. That if you've been doing it since really, really young, it's going to show up in your mid-30s. Wilder hasn't been doing it for, since that young. He hasn't been taking that much punishment in boxing. And neither in pro, as I said, he's been knocking these guys out, and these guys are not top fighters to give him, a lot of damage in the ring. So he hasn't taken that much damage anyway. So I don't know. I think they're kind of exaggerating this. Oh, Wilder's going to get old, then that's when Joshua's going to fight him. That's bullshit. That's bullshit, man. Deontay Wilder, I feel bad for him. Anthony Joshua, I feel bad for him. A lot of times it's hard for people to feel bad for someone who's successful, who's at the top. I feel like Joshua will fight Wilder. Not soon though. Late 2018 or 2019. I feel like that's when he will fight him. Let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Am I seriously wrong? Because, at the end of the day, I can't really blame either fighter. I know Joshua has 2 title fights, and what's he going to do now? Trying to give up the title? I mean, look, he's going to do what he's going to do, and Wilder's got to do what he's got to do. I can see the fans saying give up the titles because it's the more reasonable thing to ask for. You know, if you're not going to fight all these fighters, why didn't you give up the title? Makes sense, right? But they're both this way. What they can do is also make up a big fight, a bigger fight. And I also want to mention that Anthony Joshua is a good fighter, but I still feel like Tyson Fury would have beat him. Just to mention, because you know we talk about Joshua and Wilder like they're the best. Tyson Fury, if he comes back to like the way that Klitschko faced Tyson Fury, the Tyson Fury that Klitschko faced, he could beat Joshua. He's the king as far as I'm concerned. And Deontay Wilder said it. Tyson Fury is the man that put British boxing on the map, you know, UK on the map. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to comment down below. Subscribe to my channel, 93 Boxing. I'm out.